Hi there, welcome to Transcona Trailer Sales. Today we walk you through your 2026 Wildwood 27Rk. We are just going to start off at the back of the unit. If you notice up top, you're pre-mounted for an observation camera. If you'd like to get set up with that, you can contact your parts department. They'd be more than happy to help you out. It's going to be a great addition to your camper for especially seeing behind you when you're backing into those tight parking spots. They'll let you know how far you have to go back. You don't have to get your significant other to yell at you when you're too close. But again, just contact your parts department if that is something that interests you. Down at the back, you also have your spare tire, and then you kind of have your main inlet here for the unit for your water system. So you get your city water connection. So if you're at a site with service, you can just thread a garden hose in there, pressurize. It pressurizes all those lines without the need to run your water pump. Your 2 cable satellite inlets in case you were getting hooked up with that. And then you do have your black tank flush. It's very important. I recommend using that flush after every use. If not after every use, at least after every few uses. It's just going to help break down those solids all that little bit better, keep that tank that little bit cleaner, help with any false monitor panel readings. But it is very important that you do read the caution sticker before you use it. It's going to tell you that it's very important that you have to have your sewer hose connected and of course your black tank valve open. And the reason being is because you're pushing pressure inside of that tank. That pressure does have to have somewhere to go, otherwise it could expand that tank to the point of crack. Now, coming around to the driver's side of the unit, you do get access from both sides. You get these in your rear bumper, you get these 2 caps, you pull on them. It's typically where you're going to want to store your sewer hose after your first use. We have a brand new one located inside the front compartment, which is why there's not one in here yet, but that is where we recommend storing it. Just tries to keep as much smell out of the unit as possible. And then right up from there, you get your standard 50 amp twist lock connection. Now you just take note of this silver strip here, lines up with the silver strip on this side, push it firmly into place. Then you got that 8th turn to lock it in, and then that threaded collar to really lock it down. Now if you follow that cord back, you do come to your standard 50 amp plug-in. Now, a lot of campgrounds, especially here in Manitoba, don't quite have 50 amp service yet, so that's why we do include this 30 amp dog bone adapter so that you can hook up into that standard 30 amp outlet, which most campsites here in Manitoba do have. And we also include that 15 amp park adapter to go down from your 30 in case you had the unit at home and you want to run your fridge on your standard house outlet, or your campsite only has 15 amp service. Just keep it in mind whenever you are using that. You're not going to be able to run any air conditioners. And because this unit is equipped with 2 air conditioners, if you wanted to run them both at the same time, you do have to have that 50 amp service. If you're using that 30 amp dog bone adapter, you will only be able to run 1 air conditioner at a time. So just be mindful of that. You're going to notice right at the back here, it's kind of weird, I know. You get your galley tank drain, so that is just going to be for your kitchen sink. It's all the way back here, although the outlet is way down there. So I will go over the outlet more once we do go there, but that valve will be one of those ones you want to hold last, as it's going to be a little bit cleaner water. Come a little bit ahead, this is where you're going to find your sewer outlet. So again, you got this hose here, which comes from that galley tank. The second gray one, which is back here, is going to be for the bathroom. So again, that's going to be another one you're going to want to empty last, and then you come to your black valve. This will be the one you want to empty first. This is going to be your dirtiest water filled from your toilets. It's the poopy water. You know, everybody hates it. It's gross. It's really not that bad, I promise. But you just take that cap, twist it off. Thank God that was clean. Your sewer hose is going to have the same ears as this. It does line up and lock into place like so. And you're good to go. You're going to notice this little drain here. Now this is prepped for a washer dryer combo. If you'd like to get set up with that, again, it would be as simple as contacting your parts department. But this is here so that if you were to have that washer dryer prep, it would this is where it would drain its water out of. Coming a little, pretty much to the front, you get that first storage compartment. Again, that is where you're going to find that starter kit. It's going to come with a 15-foot water hose, 10-foot sewer hose, some other miscellaneous goodies, including that 15 amp park adapter. And then right around at the front of the trailer, you got your battery located inside this box here. And then right at the front frame, you're going to notice you get your battery disconnect switch. With it in the on position like it is now, the batteries are connected to the unit. Turn it to the off position, the batteries would now become disconnected from the unit. In addition, it also disables the 12 volt. So again, if you ever open up the door, you're trying to turn on the lights, nothing's working, always just double check your battery disconnect switch is on, because it does disable the 12 volt. And now you get to your 2 propane tanks. For your day-to-day use, you can just access it through moving those tabs out of the place. Sometimes you might have to loosen them off a little bit. And in case you did have to refill them, which you will have to actually at some point in time. This cover does just slide out of place, just like that. And then you get your 2 propane tanks. Right at the front, you get this regulator. The selector valve at the front is obviously deciding which tank you're drawing off of. So if it's pointed this way, you're obviously drawing off this tank. If you point it to this side, it's drawing off this tank. Counterclockwise, but nice and slowly, like any standard barbecue, opens up the flow of propane to the unit. Now, if this tank were to go dry, you could just close it off, switch this over to the other side and start drawing off this tank. And then you can either disconnect this one and get her filled up, or if you're coming back to town, leave it on there and just continue drawing off that one for the rest of the weekend. Power tongue jack right at the front. Coming around to this side, you get a little bit bigger of the storage area, but it does go all the way through. But you're gonna notice you got your versatile ram control there. So I'll go over, there's tons of storage throughout this unit, but just of course, whenever you are using any of it, just being mindful of drains, water lines, and wiring like so. That versatile bed control has to be able to move freely up and down if you want to use that feature, I guess. So don't try and pile anything too high around it. You're also not going to be wanting to affect any of those wires hanging down. You got a little laundry chute here. We'll go over that once we get on the inside. And then you get your different overrides for the electric stabilizer jack, as well as your electric tongue jack at the front. There's a little cap on the top that you just have to pop out of place in case it were to fail. Now you come to your fresh water fill. So if you're out boondocking, the campground shut down the water for the year, or you just don't want to run city water, put a garden hose in there, turn it on, and that is what fills up your fresh tank, and that's what your water pump draws off of. Down below, if you look right below the floor, there is this big white valve. Opening that up, that is what drains the tank. Closing it is what drains it, or holds it open. And then you're gonna have electric stabilizer jacks with this unit. The front switch is located here. The back switch will be obviously located at the back. They're both gonna work the same way. Just of course, push and hold the extend button. The feet will start making their way down. It is an open gear system though, so sometimes the feet may come down at different paces. If they do, just allow them to keep doing their thing. As long as they're not making any weird noises, they'll be good to go. It is a pretty noisy system to begin with. Now you'll know those arms are at their full extension once you hear the motors wind up and click. So again, that foot touched first. Now this foot's gonna touch that motor wind up, so now the unit is stable. Now, of course, before you do run your stabilizer jacks, it's important to level the unit first. These are stabilizing jacks, they're not leveling jacks. If you try and use them as leveling jacks, you do run the risk of bending them or burning out the motor. I don't recommend it, so just be careful with them. And then to retract them, just the exact opposite. Holding that retract button, the feet are gonna start making their way up. And once the feet contact the bottom of the trailer, again, you hear that motor wind up and you can let off the button. Don't hold it down, otherwise again, it's just harder on the motor than it needs to be. There's a main entryway door, which is what we're entering here today. You've got your couple JBL speakers on the outside. They do give you this little pre-mount for a TV in case you wanted to put a TV outside, and they even gave you an outlet right down below, as well as a cable satellite outlet. And one thing I did forget to mention inside this part of the apartment, now that I am looking, is the sweet accent lighting. So let's say the local campground, you want to be the coolest guy. There is a switch. Oh, maybe it's not. Sorry. I'm wrong. I'm wrong. The switch is inside. I'll go over it once we get there. Again, just more outside stuff. Inside this compartment, opening that guy up. That is where you come to your 120 volt mini fridge. Now this will work whenever it's hooked up to shore power, but it is not 12 volt, so it won't work while you're driving. So just keep that in mind for whatever you're putting in there. It is mainly for drinks, kids drinks, adult drinks, whatever it happens to be. You got your little travel lock here. It'll be down, making sure that's always down whenever you're traveling. That way that drawer can't slide out and bang up the door. Lift it up, pull it towards you. You get an awesome griddle. Really, really cool combo. There will be a quick connect line included with it. I don't see it at the time, but it's also the winter time. I know you're not picking it up until spring, so I will promise to figure that out before you come and pick up your unit. But essentially, it would look exactly like an airline quick connect. You're gonna get one line at the back here, just holding the regulator as you pull back on the collar and insert it into place. Just because it is a little bit flimsy, they're not supposed to break, but of course, as you know, sometimes things do tend to break. Then you have your quick connect line located down here, so you don't even have to bring an extra propane tank with you. This is plumbed in right into those two front tanks. Take that cap off. You would then take the other corresponding end of that hose, pull back on this collar, insert it into place exactly like an airline, pull back. Once you're able to lock that into place, you could then open up the flow of propane and you'd be able to begin the lighting sequence on your griddle. Now, with all that being said, this is a safety feature. You can't operate the coupler with the flow of propane open. You have to close the flow of propane, and then that will allow you to open up that coupler in case you wanted to store it all away. Always making sure to put your dust caps back into place. That way you don't get any debris inside the line. Right next to it, you get an exterior shower in case you wanted to wash the dog off, or your significant other came back all muddy. You don't want them showering inside. That's where you do that. Opens up with your standard 751 furnace exhaust. Whenever your furnace will be running, this will be blowing out hot air, so just be mindful of that. We get your range hood vent, so whenever you're camping, try and remember to unflap that flap. It just clicks and locks into place and unclips, so that way you can evacuate those fumes as you are creating them. Now, whenever you're not using the unit, it is pretty important to try and remember to close that back up. That's just going to stop any excess dust from getting inside of the unit, and of course any sort of critters, birds, or stuff like that, things you don't want inside. That's a way in, so try and block it off. And then last but not least, for the outside, you do come to your hot water service port. Now this is a tankless system, so I'm going to go over a few more notes once we get inside. But a big one for outside is winterization does look a little bit differently. If you had a tanked water heater in the past, which is what most of the older trailers had, you had bypass valves you had to worry about turning and of course draining the system. Now this system is the complete opposite. There's no bypass valves behind it. You actually do want to run antifreeze through it. And once you've done your winterization process completely, cracking this pressure relief valve, leaving it cracked open for the duration of winter. So that way, essentially what the system is back there, you got a bunch of copper coils wrapped around in a circle. In the middle, you get a big flame that happens when you turn on the hot water, and that's what heats the hot water as it flows through the copper. Now, if you just winterized the system and didn't leave this cracked open, there'd be a bunch of antifreeze remaining inside of there. And even though antifreeze doesn't completely freeze during winter, it does gel up, and it is just not enough room for it. So it will crack your coils if you don't leave it cracked open, so just be very cautious with that. And then of course you got your power switch that does turn power on to the thermostat inside. Now for the best part, we can take a step on inside. We're just going to take that assist hand and push it up, holding it 90 degrees. That will allow you to walk into place. That'll allow you to open up your door. You do have to have your door open all the way to get your stairs down. Once the door is open, pull that blue tab. The stairs will start coming down towards you. There is no assist strut on these, so it is the full weight of the stairs. They're not very heavy, but just make sure you're cautious of what's coming towards you. You get your two adjustable little notches here. You push down on them. That'll allow these feet to slide into their corresponding spots. Essentially, the goal of that is so that the stairs are down, they're nice and level, and of course you want this black catch plate as close to the silver catch plate as possible, so that way this door can open and close without binding or scraping. Now you can take a step on inside. First thing you notice off on the left is that fire extinguisher, which is just like, oh, pull the pin and shoot. And if you come to the right, as soon as you walk in the door, you get your main monitor panel system. The one super nice thing about these new units is the monitor panel system is a motion sensing thing. So once your hand or something waves in front of it, it does kind of illuminate itself so you can kind of see what you're doing. At that point, you turn the main light switch on, which does turn on all the lights in the main living space. Beside it, you get an accent light button. It's going to turn on some accent lighting in the slide out, kind of a little bit throughout everything. Awning light, obviously it's the awning light. Now you get that exterior light button. Now if you come outside, now that I've hit that exterior light button, it lights up all these nice accent lights they did put on the side here while they were installed. I think they're awesome. I think they really do spice up your campsite. And your other buddies probably don't have them, so it makes you look a little bit cooler. Awning LED light, self-explanatory. And then we get to your awning and your slide out. We'll first go over the awning. Push and hold the extend button. The awning is going to start making its way out. Now it is a good measure, of course, before you roll out your awning, that you're paying attention to where it's rolling, making sure you have enough room for it to fully roll out without you causing any damage, running it into anything. But once you do verify that, just push and hold the extend button. Awning's going to start making its way out. Unfortunately, today I doubt we're going to be able to get it to its full extension because I don't want to run it into that shelf. and I'm sure you don't want me to either. So, but you would know that awning's at its full extension when you would see the back of the metal tube and a little flap hang down. Sometimes that flap can get stuck, so you might just have to retract it a couple feet, put it back out again for it to come out. Now, unfortunately, that's all I'm really wanting to go today, just due to space, but you kind of get the gist of it. Now, if it were to start raining, you take any arm, front or rear, pull down at the center. It's going to change the pitch of the awning head, allowing water to now run off. Now, if you like that angle better because it's going to allow for more shade underneath, you do, of course, do the same thing with the front arm. Just make sure that you do remember to push both arms back to straight before you bring the awning in. Again, that way you don't run the risk of bending anything. And to bring it in, it is literally as simple as holding the retract button, watching to make sure it's rolling the right way in. If it was wet at the time of you rolling it in, it's not the end of the day. It's not the end of the world. Just try to remember at your next earliest convenience to roll it back out and allow it adequate time to dry off so you don't accelerate the growth of mold or mildew inside there. The biggest thing for your awning, it acts exactly like a wind sail. So once the wind speeds do start picking up, it's very important you bring that awning in. You don't want to rip your fabric or bend your arms. It gets pretty expensive pretty quick. So the arms contact at the side of the trailer, the motors will automatically cut out. Next, that brings me into your slide out switch. Now, before you ever run your slide out, again, it's kind of the same thing as the awning. You're going to want to make sure you double check, especially if you're traveling with this unit. Things do tend to shift during travel. Excuse me. Just make sure, it's always a good visual check to do. Make sure nothing's shifted in between the slide out fascia and the wall. It's going to get caught, causing any damage. I know for that back area, it's a little bit more difficult, but just make sure you're visual whenever you're putting it out. Looking out for it going out crooked, and of course, just paying attention for any weird noises. Push and hold that out button. Of course, just making sure on the other side you have enough room for it to go all the way out without running it into anything. And once the slide out was at its full extension, you hear the motors lined up and click. At that point, you can let off that button. So you're about to hear that slide out now, wind up and click. So you know you're at your full extension. Now, if you want to be extra cautious, you can just take your hand, feel between the slide out and the wall. You're going to want to make sure you do feel that rubber seal butting up against the wall. That way you're sealing out any moisture if it were to happen outside. Now that we're in the inside, I will just start at the front of the unit, right into the front bedroom here. Take a step in, light is on your left, versatile bed control right above it. Again, you're going to see it's in its all the way up position. If you held that down, versatile bed would start making its way down. You do get plugins on both sides of the bed as well as USB plugins. It's a great little feature. Laundry chute is on the right. Little steps here in case you needed assistance getting up. The main fire exit for the bedroom is just on this wall here. Take this red tab, pull on it, the screen's gonna pop right into place. At that point, you take this red handle, push it, hop on out of the unit. Just be mindful of how far of a drop down it is. You are gonna wanna try and go feet first, but if there is a fire, just getting out as quickly as possible is very crucial. Behind door number 1 is an awesome little closet space, but this is where the washer dryer prep comes through. So again, if that's something you want to get set up with, you could contact your parts department. And even if you didn't get set up with the washer dryer combo for this unit, because it's prepped for it, when you do the winterization on this one, it's going to be extremely important that you do hit those 2 taps. Even if you don't run them because you don't have a washer dryer, it's very important you still winterize them, as water does still make its way to them. So if you didn't winterize them, they could crack, which causes you a bunch of issues in the springtime. Something you don't want. TV backer against this wall. If you want to mount a TV, it's going to be the best place to do so in the bedroom. You got plug-in and a coax outlet right up top. Now that we're done in the bedroom, we can go over the rest of this stuff here. So you got your solar controller right here. It's showing you a fault code right now. Again, that is because it's wintertime. We don't have a battery installed in it yet because you're not picking it up till spring. But we'll have this currently set up for your basic charging needs. So if there's sun outside hitting those solar panels, which you do have to clean off periodically, by the way, with a soft, warm microfiber towel. Don't use any sort of harsh chemicals. Just warm water is plenty. Wash it down good. Have a dry one to dry it off a little bit. You should be good to go. Again, just using something soft. It doesn't even have to be a microfiber. Just nothing abrasive that's going to damage the finish of the panel. but it'll be set up for your basic charging needs. Now there's gonna be a bunch of different settings you can go around and play with, but I will recommend going over the owner's manual for it, as it does get pretty in depth. Down below, you get your sound system for the unit. This guy here, there is no FM transmitter built into it. It all does have to run off your phone. Essentially, you would connect your phone exactly how you would connect it to a JBL speaker, and everything gets placed into your phone, and you could then play music through here. This little button here will decide which speakers. So if you push it once, it'll do the inside, push it twice, it'll do the outside. This will decide if it illuminates itself, the power button, pause, play, Bluetooth connect button. So if you want to connect another phone or just your original phone, just hold that button. And then down below, you get your 2 different thermostats. Now that rear thermostat is going to be for your rear air conditioner and your rear air conditioner only. It moves all its air through the ceiling ducting throughout again, and you can either run it in a quick dump setting if you want to just cool off the bedroom, or you can close it off and it'll use the ceiling ducting to push the air throughout. But again, this will only control that, and to run both air conditioners at the same time, it does have to be 50 amp service. Now this thermostat, they do both work the same way. This thermostat will be your main thermostat. That's what's going to control your rear air, as well as your furnace, which is its own entity, runs all its air through the floor portals you have throughout the unit. It is a 12-volt system, so you don't even have to be really plugged in to do so. You just have to have a battery fully charged at the front. And it does run off propane. Now I'm going to go over a bunch of propane notes once we get around to the stove area, but it is very important that you purge your system first before you try firing up your furnace. Again, I'm going to go over purging once we get to your stove, because that's what you do it through. Push and hold the power button to turn on the thermostat. It's going to bring you to your last known setting. In this situation, it is fan. At this point, it's on a low fan. Now on this low fan setting, it's going to run continuously until you manually turn it off. And now you get low and high. Push the button one more time, you get into dry, which is a dehumidifying mode. It's going to try and take as much moisture out of the air as possible. Push the power button again, that'll bring you over to cool. Now that we're in cool, again, you're using the air conditioner to cool the air. If you have that fan speed setting on either low or high, that fan on the air conditioner will run continuously again until you actually manually turn it off. If you were to turn that to the A, which is auto, that's the setting I recommend using. It's going to pick the best fan speed based on what the room is set to, and it'll create an on-demand system. So let's say we have the room set to 71. We have the room set to 71 and it's 71 degrees inside of here. So that's why you heard the air conditioner kick out. Let's say the room would jump up to 77. At that point, probably around the 73 degree range mark, it would then kick in the air conditioner to try and upkeep to that 71. Hit the power button one more time, that's going to kill your air conditioner. Fire up your furnace. Of course, if you had that fan setting on your air conditioner on high or low, it would continually actually running on the air conditioner even once you switched over to heat. That's why, again, I recommend using that auto setting. It's going to pick the best setting, and it'll create an on-demand system. And it makes it easy for if you ran the air conditioner all day and now it's the evening time and it's cold, you want to heat it up a little bit, it'll automatically kill the fan instead of you actually having to go back and do it. Again, purging it's going to be pretty important. One more time, cycles you back over to fan, same thing. Push and hold the power button just to turn the system off completely. You're going to notice lots of travel straps throughout this unit. Now it is very crucial that you use it. Again, this is going to be a sliding door, so if it's not latched and you were to travel with this, it's going to be able to slide around freely, probably rip itself off the hinges, and you won't be happy. I won't be happy, so just make sure, always try to make sure you do latch it up, just to save yourself the headache. Power switch on the far left for the bathroom, turn on the lights. It is pretty much your main standard bathroom. You got an outlet over here. It is the main GFI plug. You got reset in the middle, test down below. If you ever have an outlet that doesn't work, this would be the first place I would look. And then behind the cameraman, you do get your thermostat for your hot water heater. So I mentioned it was an on-demand system. So again, this system will work a little bit differently than your household system. I know at home, when you turn on the hot water, if you're running that hot water and you find it's too hot, you just turn on the cold a little bit to try and blend it in. This system doesn't actually like you doing that because it works off flow. Once you do turn on the cold tap, it throws off the flow, which will then create cold spots and inconsistent temperatures. So how you want to set your temperature, which is by pushing the up or down button at any time, you want to base this temperature based off of when you crack that hot on, you want it comfortable with just the hot on. You don't want to have to blend the cold in at all, again, just because it throws off flow. So just make sure you set that to exactly how you find that. Now, if you have kids watching, it might be a good idea to maybe plug their ears or get them to walk away, because it's an added safety feature that 50 degrees Celsius is the max temperature for the hot water right now, and that's already super hot water, so just be mindful when you do change this. If you push and hold this up button for 5 seconds, it does unlock the thermostat. It'll let you go up another 5 degrees, but just keep it in mind that extra 5 degrees does make a huge difference. You will scald your hands if you're not careful, so just be cautious whenever you're using it. And then as soon as you do drop it below 50, it does automatically lock itself again. So that is how you would operate that. Now coming into the main living space, first things first, these swivel chairs, they are travel strapped down. It's very important that they remain travel strapped down. That way they can't shift around, causing any damage during travel. Behind the cameraman, you get your entertainment center. Again, you're gonna notice travel strap for the TV that doesn't exist yet. If you add a TV here, it's gonna be pretty important that you latch it up, considering the cardboard one is. Down below, you get your furnace. You got the power button on the far right. The button that's to the left of it does change your flame colors. The button right in the center changes your different rock light colors. And then you get your heat setting 2 in from the left. You got low first and then high, and then you get a timer that goes anywhere from 30 minutes to about 9 hours before it'll turn itself off. Power button on the far right just to turn it off. Again, storage all around. In our slide out area, this is what we call the Versatilt Lounge. The Versa Lounge, sorry, I don't know why I said Versatilt, I was probably thinking of the bed. Because that's where I'm ready to go, but besides the point, this is the couch. There is a couple different things you could do with it. It is currently set up as a sectional. It's probably the most popular option. But if you wanted to switch that around because you wanted some more extra space over in your eating desk nook area, you just have to remove these 2 cushions out of the way. At that point, you're going to notice at the back here, this backer sits inside these stake pockets. There's the corresponding stake pockets on the other side, so you could actually lift this cushion right out of place, flip it over here, and then you could have a bench facing to sit over here. They do have some pictures laid out for you. There's a couple ideas that you could set up if you would like, because this also slides around as well. You're just having to slide it on the channels, and it would slide right over. It is currently travel strapped locked, so that's why I can't move it right now, but that is how you do so. The stools are underneath. There's a bunch of different things you can play around and do with it, so get creative with it. All the blinds in the unit do work the same way. They just kind of sit where you leave them. And then one quick pull will allow them to retract back up. Now, one thing I did forget to mention in the bathroom, since I just thought of it, is if you look above your head, you are using the bathroom, you created a stinker, you just have to pull on that, push it up. That does open up your vent lid. Fan switch in that top corner turns on the fan. You're evacuating those fumes. Now let's say you walk away and it started raining. It's going to get wet inside of here, especially if you've left that open. Now, we do sell Max hair covers here at the shop. It's going to be a cover that goes over top of this vent lid. That's going to protect you against it getting wet inside here if you left it open. Now, if you left that open during travel, you do run the risk of it damaging itself. So that vent lid's also going to protect you against that. And it's also going to add you a little bit of extra protection against hail. Again, if you'd like to get set up with that, it is as simple as contacting the police department, and they'd be more than happy to help you put together a quote for you. It's going to be a great little addition to your camper, just like the rest of the things I have mentioned, which brings me into our last space to go over, which is the kitchen space. It's one of the more popular spaces. You got a big pantry to my right. Now, because this unit's propane, you got your LP detector right here near the ground. If this guy ever starts going off, don't panic. Just turn off the main supply of propane at the front of the unit, open up some windows and vents, get some fresh oxygen inside of here. If you ever have a fuse that blows, it's going to be inside of here. All the corresponding breakers are on the left. If a breaker trips, it usually sits in the middle, so you have to turn it off and then back on again to reset it. You got your Furrion fridge, freezer combo. The controls are just inside, and then here, if you gotta push and hold the power button for 3 seconds to turn it on. push and hold the power button for 3 seconds to turn it on. Not sure why it's not turning on, but I will make sure it turns on before you pick up the unit. The little snowflake will change between your different temperatures. You're going to notice it says 5, which is the fastest and coldest option. So let's say a significant other did tell you the night before to turn on the their fridge because you were going out on a camping trip the next day. You forgot. 5 is going to be that setting that's going to get us the fastest, the coldest. And then you're going to notice off-grid being writ on number 2. Now, if you were camping off-grid on 12-volt power, this number 2 setting would be the best setting for you to use as it's most efficient. In this space, you get your sink, stove, oven, and then lifting up on this presents you the microwave and range hood. Whenever you are running your stove, I highly recommend running your range hood. Again, that way you're evacuating those propane fumes as you're creating them. There is a little bit of a spice rack up top. You get also a little salt and pepper steak spice spot on the left. Which brings me to my stove. I went over purging. Now it's going to be very important you do so. I tell every customer that I do talk to that it's the best idea when you first get to your campsite just to come to your stove and fire it up. Now the reason being is because when you do turn off the system at the front of the unit, it does allow air in. Once air makes its way in, it has to be purged out. Now the reason I'm telling you the stove is the easiest way to do that is because if you went to go to try to fire up your water heater or your furnace, those will only try lighting themselves a couple times, and if they don't sense a flame because there's no gas getting to it yet, it throws a fault code. If you don't know what the fault code means, it could throw a pretty big wrench into your weekend, especially if it's something you're needing like hot water or heat in general. So come to your stove, fire it up first thing. Now being patient with it, and of course because it's a gas stove, being safe while doing so. So as soon as you do turn on any of those gas valves, just making sure you're ready with that sparker, because you're going to have to sometimes be patient with it. It can take a few minutes. It might not want to light right away because, again, I did mention that once air makes its way in, it has to be purged out. That's why you're doing this. So as soon as you're running that gas valve, just making sure that you are running that igniter, and try and hold your face back a little bit so that if there were to be that second and an allowance of gas to build up, there isn't a minor combustion which causes you to lose some eyebrows and eyelashes because your face was right next to it. You're going to see it now has fired up. Again, like I said, it can take a few tries, so just be patient with it. You're going to see even that second one I went to go lit, and the third one when it went to go light, it doesn't always light the first time. So once you're able to get those burners lit and they stay lit on their own, and you can kind of see it's a steady flame, that's done. Now, lighting the oven is the same thing, except it can take just exceptionally long to purge just because the gas orifice, which is right down on the right side of the burner, is so small on the pilot. Now to get this to light, you do have to turn it over to the pilot, push and hold the knob in, giving it a few seconds because again, you're purging the air out, hitting that sparker. You're going to see the sparks happening. Again, like I said, the oven can be exceptionally finicky just because the gas orifice is so small. So don't be discouraged if it doesn't light right away. Just keep trying. There you go. Now that that pilot's lit and it's able to stay lit without me pushing in on the button, you can turn it up to your desired temperature and it will fire right on up. Now that is going to be it for this unit here. If you have any other questions, feel free to give us a call.